Hello. So I think we can start now. Can anyone raise hands to confirm they can see my screen and they can also hear me? All right. I think we're good. So thanks for joining this webinar. Today we'll be looking at phasing in Revit, how we can do it, why we should do it, and what advantages it brings us. So this webinar and all the resources, the slides here, and an example file I prepared will be available on our intranet. I will send a link to all attendees at the end of this. So if you want to forward this to someone else, or get watch it again as a reminder, you can do so following the link I'll provide at the end. So in this course, we're going to be looking at how phasing works in Revit. How can we set up all our views and elements and the project settings to implement this, and what advantages it has, as well as some of the points that Revit falls short. So I'll actually jump right into this Revit model that I have prepared. So this is an example that I've created. So you can ignore these writings for now. So what you're seeing here, because we will get into this a bit later, and you will have this file to inspect for yourself as well. So what we have here is items in different phases, all shown in one drawing. So this drawing right now is showing us some existing items, new items, and demolished. So this view is set to show all of them at once. So you can see these grayed out elements are the existing ones. The one shown with a dash is the demolished, and these are the new construction elements. So these are the new walls. So in the same model, with slightly different settings, I can actually open a demolition model. Now what this does is it shows me an existing, it shows me the existing walls, plus it shows me the walls that will be demolished. And on yet another view, I see only the existing, but this time it doesn't show me the overrides. It just displays it like any regular wall. So this is the drawing I would use to establish all my existing stuff. Then I can start demolishing from there. And then I have my new construction drawing, which shows me only the existing and the new construction, because this is what I want to see as my final work. So what we can do here is, let's say if I add a wall on this drawing, and now this drawing is, this wall will be an element in the new construction. So this is part of my new design. So what you will notice is if I go back here to existing, actually it's very close, so let me just put it over here. So you know it's not the same wall because I demolished this wall already, right? So on the existing drawing, you're not going to see this wall. It's because it is actually created in the future, and I can manage all these in a single drawing. Now let's say I want to add something to my existing. Now let's add a wall like this. It might not make sense. It's just I'm adding this just for the sake of demonstration. And as you can see in my new construction drawing, that existing wall not only showed up, now it showed up as an existing wall, like indicating by its graphics that it was an element that was part of the old building. So we're going to talk about, so basically this is the advantage of doing phasing in your Revit model. You can control all the elements and have their overrides displayed correctly depending on what phase they are created or demolished, or whether you want to keep these elements. it's all going to be up to you. It can get very, very complex. We can do tons of phases. Like we could have like 5, 6 phases in one model, and you could have continuous circles and building and demolishing. But of course, that makes the project more complex from a design standpoint. There's always that to keep in mind. But when we face such a situation, Revit can help us quite a bit while managing those. And just last thing I want to show on this model is, let's say I put this accidentally on my existing, and I actually want this to be on new construction. No problem. All I have to do is just click this wall and change the phase created parameter to new construction, and it's going to look like new. And when I go back to my existing, it's not even going to show up anymore because this drawing is not set to show that wall. So how do we achieve all these? Now, there are several factors that determine all these graphics, how an item is treated on each view, and there are settings of the view. There are some project settings that determine what the overrides are. For example, how your existing elements will look, how your demolished elements will look. You can fine-tune all these in your model. Our default, especially architectural template, has quite a bit of things going for it. So these are all set up in our architectural template. So you would get some default settings right off the bat, but if you have some more specific requirements, you can always tune these. So as I said, the several factors are the project settings and the phases defined in the project, phases of the element, and phases of the view itself. So our view is actually looking at a certain moment in the progress of the construction, if that makes any sense. So the first parameter we will look at is the parameters of the item itself. And all these phase parameters, all the options are built in, and you can't really add more. You can add more phases, but things like phase states, for example, if whether an item is new, demolished, existing, or temporary, those are all preset in Revit. So we can't add anything to those. We're a bit limited in that sense, but they give us quite a bit of options. They would cover a lot of things. So if you're not using phases, you actually are using phases all the time, you just don't notice. Because typically, if it's a new construction project, we just use the new construction as our view phase and items phase as well all the time. So if you have your view phase as new construction, which is the typical, whatever items you place on that view will just go to that phase, as demonstrated with the example I've shown just a minute ago. So this wall, for example, says phase created, new construction, phase demolished, none. And this phase demolished none is the default parameter as well. Revit assumes you're not going to demolish an item unless you specifically indicate so. So we've already been through this. So so the view itself has a phase parameter. If you have Revit open somewhere here now, we can just go back to Revit just to prove I'm not lying to you. So on the view properties, by default, you always have this phase parameter and the phase filter parameter. You can't delete those. They're always there. You might not be using them, and that's fine. We're going to be utilizing them whenever we have a project that requires either demolition and some reconstruction, or if we're doing some existing stuff, or if the project requires some phases by itself. So, no, sorry. Right, so that's another factor that affects the state of our items. So phase status is, now this is where it starts getting tricky, because phase status is determined based on the phase of your view and the phase of your item. So it's a relative state. So let's say if you're let's say you have a sequential number of phases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all one after the other. So 5 is the latest phase and 1 is the first phase. And if you have your items created in phase 1, in phase 2, because we're in the future, any items you created in phase 1 will be treated as existing. So it's that sort of relationship that's determining all these graphic overrides. So, and if you have demolished an item in the phase, let's say you created an item in phase 1 and demolished an item in phase 2, and if your view is in phase 2, it's going to appear as demolished. And in phase 3, it won't appear at all because it's already gone. It's demolished. It's not there anymore, so there's no need to display it. So how you determine phase status is basically a combination of these three parameters. And we will see a chart explaining this whole thing just in a minute. So there are 4 phase states, which are new, existing, demolished, and temporary. So new is the most simple one. If the phase of your view and the phase created for your item is the same, your element is treated as new. But keep in mind, this is a relative state. So if you have another view with another phase, that item will have a different phase status in that view. So existing means your item is created in a previous phase, basically in a past phase, and demolished means it's created sometime in the past in one of the former phases and it's demolished in the phase you are currently looking at. So your views, so if your views phase equals your item's phase demolished parameter, that item will be demolished. But if it's created and demolished in the same phase, then it gets this temporary status, the one that is indicated at the bottom. So these are the 4 phase states, and there is no other. We can't add any other. This is a built-in feature in Revit. If we require more, I mean, I can't imagine really requiring more than these, but they're pretty set. So it's pretty rigid. I understand it might be confusing at first, but once you get used to it, it really becomes a convenient thing to play around with. And I tried to create a table here indicating how this is determined. So basically what I'm saying here is we have a view that is in phase 4 and that is set in phase 4. So relative to this view, everything before phase 4 is in the past and everything after phase 4 is in the future, so it won't even display it. We can't see into the future. So phase 4 is the current phase. So any items that are created in phase 4 are going to be new construction items. Then there are 2 parameters affecting the element itself. So this is for the view and this is for the element. So let's say I'm looking at an item that is created in phase 2 and demolished in phase 5. Because the demolishing act is in the future, it doesn't show up as demolished. And because it's built in phase 2, it's new construction only in phase 2, and when we come to phase 4, well, it's created in the past, so it's treated as existing. So this is the kind of logic that we're looking at. If I was looking at a view on phase 5, it would be demolished. If it was phase 3, it would be the same and it would be existing again. And only phase 2 would be new. And phase 1, as you can see, I mean, the item is not created yet, so it doesn't even display. It just doesn't exist. So phase filter is another item that affects your visual representation. So what this does is we can say, just show me elements of a certain phase state, or override override items in certain phase states. As you can see, these are the phase states that Revit determines. So, so how we can use this is, for example, if I want to make a demolition view, right? So if I want to create a view that shows me the demolition. So what I want to see there is existing and demolished. So I would basically say, show me the existing without overrides, and show me the demolished with overrides so I can see those dashed lines. And I would not display the new construction. So because I don't want to see the new stuff, I just want to see existing and demolition. So this is my demolition drawing. So the one that fits into this here is previous plus demo. As you can see here, new construction is not displayed, and temporary is not displayed. This is rarely used, by the way. So usually we're dealing with 3 of these actually. So this would be an ideal candidate for creating my demo drawings. And show new, for example, shows only the new construction. But this is not ideal if I want to, see the last state of my building, because there are some items, let's say, remaining from the previous construction, and I want to display them in a grayed out graphical style. So this wouldn't be ideal. So this would just show me whatever is new, right? So as you can see, existing is hidden over here. So show previous plus new is the ideal candidate for this one, because it's hiding the demolished items and the temporary items, but it's showing me the new category, the new construction items as they would seem regularly, and it's showing me the existing as in the grayed out graphical style that I displayed at the beginning. So there's a certain use case for all of these, and we can create more phase filters, but these ones are the phase filters that we currently have in our template, and they should cover most of the situations. If we need more, we will create more, of course. And then there are graphic overrides. So if you got confused when you saw the overridden over here, this means if you don't say overridden, it's not going to do anything. So so if you look at show complete, for example, they both say by category. So it's a view where you don't distinguish the new construction and existing, right? But I want to show existing differently, so I mark it overridden. And how it overrides the existing elements is depending on this table. So you can see here the patterns have been converted to gray. I could do some changes in lines. So the demolished items have those dashed lines. So we can play around with these. We have a lot of options. Again, the default ones on the templates I think are okay, but we can go into more detail or create some different visual styles if we need to do so. So here's another set of equations that take everything into account. So how the graphical overrides are determined, like how item will be displayed, basically, like how Revit knows what to display and how to display that item. So that equation goes as face status plus face filter plus graphic overrides determines the graphical representation. And there are two examples here. So if your element is existing and your view setting says new only, then it won't display the existing items, right? So the result is the item is not displayed. And if you have the existing, if you have an existing element and your view setting is new plus existing from the table and the settings I've shown before, and project settings says show me the existing as halftone, the existing will be displayed in halftone. So this is the logic behind it when you put it all together. And this is a summary of everything that determines how elements are represented. So I know this is a lot of reading, but this is something you might, this is everything that I've explained a minute ago, and this is good for your future reference if you would like to take a look at the notes again. So this is, again, coming back to the file I've shown you first. So these are some example cases of how we would use the view phases and view filter, how we would use different view phases and view filters in our drawings. So let's say this is for a review drawing and the face filter is set to show all, because we would pretty much never issue a drawing like this where we see all the new stuff, the demolition, and the existing in the same place. I mean, this is of course very simplified for the purposes of demonstration, but normally we would have walls overlapping and everything. It wouldn't really even be readable. So in this one, basically, all the overrides show up. So existing are overridden, and the demolished ones are overridden. So, and I'm also giving you the properties of the item here. So view phase is new construction, and phase created of this item, this wall going on here, for example, is existing. So, and as it's not demolished, it just shows up as existing. While this one is demolished in this phase, so its state is demolished, so it's overridden accordingly. And this wall over here is, okay, this is not true. That's my bad here. This is created in new construction, actually. So that's why it's showing as new construction. So this is a use case for a demolition drawing. So we just want to see everything that was existing and that was demolished. So none of the new elements are showing up. So because the phase filter is filtering out all the new stuff. So we set the view phase as new construction as well, and these items again show as existing, and these show as demolished. The only difference from this drawing is really the new items not showing up. And then there's another view usage for existing conditions. So this is a comfortable view to work on when you're redrawing all your existing conditions. You're trying to create the existing conditions first. Then you can simply pick the elements and set their demolishing phases to demolish the items. That would be the ideal way of doing it. So at this point, basically, we are just drawing everything in this view just to throw all these items to the existing phase. And this drawing is ideal for representing the new design. So we see all the existing items in a gray half-tone graphical style, and all the new items are regular standard. So we see the walls with the thick lines, with whatever detail is in it. So this will give us a good representation of our final design intent, also indicating which items were previously existing. So there are some limitations, unfortunately, when working in this manner. So the first item that's caused me quite a bit of trouble in the past is actually you cannot override the labels. So even if you're overriding the items themselves, as you can see here, so this is not a manual override, right? So it is overridden by phase properties. It will override the item, but it won't do anything to the item's label. So as you can see, the W1 here is the labels are exactly the same because Revit doesn't feel the requirement to I mean, they don't think you need to distinguish the labels of different phases. So if you would like to show the labels differently as well, you're going to have to do that manually. Of course, like there are cases where you might not even label the existing walls or certain items. That will just save us quite a bit of time and pain of just overriding these one by one. But the limitation is there. There isn't much to do about it. And rooms have a weird configuration where they have only a phase parameter. They don't have a phase demolished parameter, and you can't even change the phase of a room as easily as other items. So if you want to change the phase of a room, you have to cut the room and paste it to a view that is set in the phase that you want to paste this room into. And you have to recreate the rooms in phases. So not ideal, but rooms are a bit tricky, honestly, as they're not items, like they're not independent items. They have to be enclosed by walls all the time. That's how they are defined in the space. So probably that's the source of the limitation, but the limitation is there nonetheless. So to demolish rooms, to create and demolish rooms, we're going to have to, you know, just copy and paste them all the time, basically. So you can't really change the phase of a room as easily as other items. And this is by far the worst thing in phasing in Revit. Unfortunately, the moment you demolish an item in any of the phases, the MEP items will become undefined. You can't indicate a system for the items anymore. So if as you can see, I have a duct here that I've demolished, and it immediately becomes undefined for system type and classification. So when I label it, I won't be able to indicate its system. I won't be able to, you know, calculate anything of these demolished ones. Like, I mean, typically you wouldn't have to, but it's still a really frustrating, you know, thing. I think I would at least like to be able to label these with the proper system, because, I mean, if it was only the phase that I demolished in that had the problem, maybe that would be fine. But once you demolish them, all the phasing, all the system information will be destroyed. It's gone. You can do nothing about it. The other parts that are connected to this segment will be fine. So this segment of the duct that is still not demolished in any phase, that's going to be fine. No problems with that, and you can just connect through this. In later phases, you can just connect something to this and get it to work. Not a big deal, but it's just not going to work. Like this segment is barely going to be there as the geometry. Like you won't carry much information with that. So this is all for the presentation. I know this has been pretty quick, but I'd like to get some questions if you have any. I know it's a lot to take in at once, but if you have any questions, please write them to the question pane now. So no questions? Oh, so the question is, does phasing work on structural elements? Yeah, of course. It works on all elements, basically. It just causes some connectivity. I mean, the system properties don't carry on MEP, but they work on MEP as well. And of course, they work on structural. So I'll just go back to my Revit window here. And so if I place a column here, oh, let's, yeah, I don't think this is going to this correct height. Yeah, there we go. So if I, let's say, place these, and you can see the face where it is existing. All right, so I put these in existing phase. Now, if I go to my new construction, they will be overridden. Yeah, you can see they are overridden. So one thing here with these eye profiles, we might want to put a different graphical setting maybe, because as you can see at 1 to 100, you can't really, it just looks pretty regular. But it definitely works. It is there, and I can just demolish this, and I will see it on the demolition drawing as demolished. Another question is phasing useful for project schedule preparation in Revit? Not really. I would say at that when you're preparing the scheduling for the project, right? You should basically know which areas will be demolished and which areas will be demolished and rebuilt at which point in time. So that's a planning issue, and this is, I think, purely implementation of that plan. It does help you quite a bit when, I mean, you might be able to see some of the issues in Revit when you start demolishing and building those elements. But it would be mostly, I mean, at that point it's too late, really. You at least see it at the design phase, but it wouldn't help with the planning. I think that's the correct way of answering it. Any others? Can you demonstrate how to show a future phase? Well, You can't in general. So basically, if we, okay, when we, so I kept saying the phases are relative, right? So if I wanted a future phase, named future phase, so what I would do is I would go to phases and just create a new one here. So after new construction, I will just say this is future. Okay. So I would basically create a new drawing, just duplicate this one, and maybe give this a suffix F for future, right? Then what I need to do is set this set this floor plan's face to future. But you see, I'm actually cheating here because I'm not looking at future. Like as far as this view's relative situation goes, this view is in this phase called future. So I'm actually still looking at current, right? So whatever I place here, let's just I don't know, put some more walls. As you can see, these will go to the future phase, but it's actually the current in means of like relative terms. So if I go to my new construction here, they're not going to show up. So one thing to keep in mind is like we call these you know, existing, new construction, and future. I'm ignoring legend for now. That's different. So existing, new construction, and future. So I'm just naming them like this for the sake of you know, convenience, just so that we know where to place things. And as you can see, it says like past on top and future at the bottom. So if I actually drag this to, you know, number 2, this phase called future would actually sequentially be before the existing phase. So it makes sense if you have, I mean, if you have existing, new, future, and this is all you want to show, I think this makes sense. But I think at some point, if you have a lot of sequences, you should give them the sequence numbers, or just call them like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're doing sequencing, like construction sequencing, it gets relatively complicated. And what I would do is just say, you know, create a new phase, name this sequence 1, and just place another one, just say sequence 2, and so on. So, I mean, you can create almost infinite number of phases here. I don't know at what point Revit breaks. I never got there, thankfully. But yeah, it's possible to have quite a bit of sequences here, and you know, show maybe different parts of the building getting demolished and rebuilt. So on a, let's say, hospital job, this is very useful because they want to keep operating as the construction is going on, and sometimes they ask you to plan it in a lot of detail, so it's actually constructible. Any other questions? Would the presentation be available for further review? Sure. As I said, I will be uploading this to the to intranet, and I mean the slides will be there, the Revit file here will be there, and also the recording of this presentation will be available online. And also, if you have a situation where you're dealing with this kind of thing, I'm happy to help. I know we will have some projects in Toronto West very, very soon that will implement phasing in Revit. Actually, we have one going on right now. I'm hoping it will be relatively simple and there won't be sequencing. But we might actually do that as well. So maybe in the future, I will do another one just showing that project and how it was implemented. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm going to wrap it up now. And as I said, this presentation will be available on the internet. I will send a link to all attendees, and just feel free to forward this to other peers. And there's also a few other presentations on the internet if you're not aware. At the folder I will be sending you. So there's a folder under design technology and like training files. There are quite a bit of videos you can watch that goes in detail for Revit and AutoCAD applications. So it's usually subjects that are very focused on a single thing within the software. So that's all available online, and I'll make sure to indicate those links to you as well. So thanks for attending, and have a nice day.